All right, good morning. It's is it officially Columbus Day today? Yeah, and we're all in school. My children are home. They are not at school today. They celebrate Columbus Day. Or Indigenous Peoples Day. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. If you live in San Francisco, that's the name of this holiday. Well, how did they come up with Indigenous Peoples Day? Somebody want to describe this? Why Indigenous Peoples Day rather than Columbus Day? The indigenous people were already here. So, there were Vikings here too. Now, I don't think Columbus. I don't think you could call him dumb. I mean, he was an explorer. He was a ship captain. He just was maybe misguided. All he was doing is floating around the oceans, right? Yeah. All right. Anyway, onward. Categorical variables. So there are two basic categories of data that we look at in statistics, and those categories are. So I've managed a couple of silly bands, and one regular one. Okay, so. Now there's like they got twisted. All right, so we got a dog, and I don't know, what's the other one? A seal, or an otter, or something, I don't know. Anyway, my 9-year-old has a collection of about 100 on her wrist. I said, can I have a silly band? Each day I ask her for one, so 2 days I've asked her for them. So I'll get a collection of silly bands going. But anyway, so we measure quantitative data. So if I'm measuring quantitative data, I might be looking at test scores. I might be looking at heights. I might be looking at a blood pressure measurement. I might be looking at ages. So all of those measurements are quantitative. They're numeric measurements. Or I may be looking at percentages, and I'm going to call that categorical. Variable, a categorical variable, or categorical data. So those are usually done in percents. So that might be the percent of people who vote, or who vote for something in particular. That might be the proportion of households with chickens, because we just got chickens. Do you guys have chickens in your backyard? You can have, at least in Pacifica, you can have 4 chickens living in your backyard. Ours are pretty small right now. They're only like 3 weeks old. But anyway, I don't know how many chickens you can have in San Mateo, but 2. So we know you probably can have 2. Okay. Or like the percent People from Aragon. And go directly to a four-year college. Etc. So we've been doing a lot of measurements of quantitative data. We made histograms. We got means and medians and standard deviations of quantitative data. With categorical type data, all we're going to get is a percent or a proportion of our sample or of our population. So let's look at some information here. You may want to have a calculator out today. This is from a survey, a large survey of young adults. So this is people, both sexes, 19 to 22. Yes. So if I just said the number of people who vote, would that be quantitative? No, I would analyze that as a proportion and not as a raw number. Because that's not a variable, that number doesn't vary. You know, if I'm just going out and I'm going to say how many people in this county voted, that number is going to be it's going to be a constant for the survey that I did. But if I go out and say, yeah, sure, each election, how many people voted, then that would vary. Then I could probably get that into a quantitative variable. Yeah. So here's a survey of 19 to 22-year-olds about where they live. And this is kind of particular as to where they live. They were given a survey that said, do you live with your parents? Do you live with a roommate? Do you live in your own place by yourself? Or do you live in some kind of a boarding situation with a bunch of people that would be like a dormitory or something like that? Okay? So they just answered yes or no. So categorical variables, you know, you're often just the answer is either yes or no or maybe. So parents with roommates, own place by yourself, or in a dorm. And then we're going to leave them room for there must be other living situations that the numbers were so small that we didn't record them anyway. And we're going to look at 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and 22-year-olds. So these people are actually going to give me two pieces of information on this survey. They're going to tell me how old they were exactly and where they live or who they live with. And let's see, we've got 324, 378, 337, 318, 37, 47, 40, 38. I probably shouldn't have done something with this much information, but it's real information, so you tend to get more of it than if you do just a small made-up survey. 5, 2, 3, 9. Don't they know I'm teaching and trying to record a lecture? Jeez. Hello? Who's 204? That's who. Okay. 60. Okay.